And what really inspired me to write the post was not the fact that it was me, although it is always just about me. But I actually saw.
Welcome to the Rose and Rockstar from the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast and the Marketing Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ian Truscott, managing partner of Velocity B, a B2B sales and marketing advisory firm. It's Saturday the 8th of November, and in a moment I'll join my chum Robert Rose, Chief Troublemaker at 7th Bear, in our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, where over one of his fabulous cocktails I'll pick his brains on a marketing topic that is top of mind for me. This week, over a fancy martini, my question is inspired by one of Robert's LinkedIn posts that pulls on a thread we often cover on this show, the fundamentals of marketing, as he was inspired by a keynote from Marc, Pritchard, P&G's Chief Brand Officer. But first, we need to play the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back. After this word.
We'll be right back.
After this word.
Marketers, Deborah Eckerling here.
And I'm Keith Smith, and we host the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is not just another marketing podcast, but the marketing podcast about all the other marketing podcasts.
Podcasts are booming, right? We love them, and people actually listen. They don't scroll, they don't swipe, well, except maybe during the ad breaks.
But here's the secret. With the Marketing Podcast Network, your ads don't make people hit skip. We put your brand on shows that people actually want to hear.
That's right. We match your message with podcasts that make marketing nerds like us perk up and take notes, or at least nod knowingly, pretending they understand.
And don't worry, because we'll deliver your ad naturally. People might even think that we love your brand personally, which of course we totally do, unless it's a veggie smoothie, then maybe not.
If you want your brand heard without making listeners roll their eyes,
head to marketingpodcasts.net and catch marketing fans at work, rest and play. Seriously, your audience is already listening. Make sure they hear your brand and not our awkward jokes.
Join the conversation, because good ads shouldn't just be tolerated, they should be enjoyed.
Yes!
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. It is fall here. We've just had some elections here in the U.S. and that went well. So I guess like Shawshank Redemption, hope is the best of things. So we're a little more Eddie. I don't know. We're not any more at ease, but yeah, no, things are good. It's been a good week.
I think whichever side of the divide you sit on, it shows that there is still a balance to be had in your country, right? That it isn't going all one way and authoritarianism and stuff, or whether I'm allowed to say that word, but it feels like normality might resume.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what is clear is that you've got you've got basically, well, let's just call it some level of sanity that is there that could return.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The nice thing is I know that on your show that you need to worry about politics because YouTube kind of suppresses you if you do, but don't worry about it here.
Right. Right.
I don't have that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think a drink's on order, mate. What are we having?
Yeah, it's good. We've got, so we have basically so I've been really into passion fruit lately.
Okay.
It's passion fruit season here in Southern California. So, and I don't know if you get them there in the UK, but
yeah.
the where you sort of chop off the top of it and then you sort of eat it with a small spoon. They're just so delicious. So I made a passion fruit martini.
Ooh.
It's also known, by the way, as a porn star martini. So I mean, take that for whatever it's worth.
Very Rockstar.
But basically, it starts with it's a vodka martini because this is just not going to taste that great with gin. So it's a vodka martini, and then you have your 2 ounces or 2 parts or whatever vodka.
Yeah.
Then you have a little bit of passion fruit liqueur. They do make it. I actually made it with fresh passion fruit, which was even better. Now it's a little hard to do that because passion fruit, of course, has the little seeds. So you either have to deal with the seeds or you have to sort of just use the passion fruit juice that comes out of the actual passion fruit. Then you have a little sprinkle of lime juice. And basically, if you put a little bit, and this is up to taste, but I think you have to trust me with this, a little bit of a splash or a healthy splash of either Prosecco or champagne. So it basically really works nice. Now, here what you want to do is you want to basically put all the ingredients except, because you don't want to get rid of the sort of fizz of the champagne. So you put all the ingredients into the shaker, you pour it through a strainer into your glass, and then you add the Prosecco and the champagne the last bit. Or you can even enjoy the Prosecco is in a separate shot glass, right? You just have it like as a little pairing. And it's just a lovely, 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 very elegant drink.
Nice, very nice. And a passion fruit or porn star martini, it sounds about...
Yes.
Yeah, our passion fruit tends to come in a carton. We don't seem to worry about the seeds too much.
Yeah, right.
Not living in California, but yes.
Exactly.
All right, well, while we're sipping these, I mean... I've got to talk about this particular post that you made on LinkedIn and ask you about this. Is that you were talking about on LinkedIn about that you believe that there's a return to the fundamentals in B2B marketing right now, and I want to say this. I should let you say this phrase, but one of the nicest lines in it, because you're a beautiful writer, you wrote, the air smells faintly of pumpkin-spiced Excel spreadsheet, because we're in planning season. I just love that.
Welcome to fall, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to fall. Excel, just that faint air, as I put it, it's a potent blend of like caffeine, desperation, and conditionally formatted pivot post. You know what I mean? It's like,
I love it. And I think this is refreshing because as we keep talking about on this bloody show as well, is everything's about AI and stuff. And what we've tried to talk about in the other part of this show, not just with you, is about marketing fundamentals. And I was heartened to believe that you think they're making a comeback. So, well,
I don't know that it will, but what I can tell you is that the thirst for it is high. And again, admittedly, that may be because I'm the one helping my clients do their planning for 2026.
Right,
so, read all the confirmation bias you want to into that. But, so what I'm noticing is, and what really inspired me to write the post was not the fact that it was me, although, it is always just about me. But I actually saw a post. So the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, a big group, they had their Masters of Marketing conference in Florida, as they do every year. And Marc Pritchard, as he does also every year, is one of the keynote speakers at it. He's the Chief Brand Officer of Procter & Gamble. And he actually, the theme of his keynote was basically the 5 fundamental, basically marketing's future lies in its past was the title of his keynote. And he had basically 5 major areas of getting back to fundamentals that he was prescribing as sort of marketing's future, which was 1, know your consumer, 2, know your brand, 3, fall in love or fall back in love with advertising, and 4 was build memory, and 5 was nurture creativity. And I loved all of those, but I felt like they needed a 2026 lens. And so what I was doing in the post was sort of applying what I'm seeing as a 2026 lens to those 5 fundamentals.
Yeah, nice. Now, the know your customer, know your brand, fall in love with advertising. Obviously, you can elaborate on those and give them a contemporary twist, as you say. But build memory. What was what did you pick up on that from that? That one's probably the one where the audience is probably least familiar with.
Yeah. So what Pritchard was talking about with build memory is that we have lost the idea of building brand memory into our consumers. In other words, what he was saying is that back in the fundamentals days, right? Back in the old days, as he might say, we used to, campaigns would run a year, multiple years, right? And the idea is that you would build brand equity by repetition. And so, you think about the classic brand commercials, brand campaigns from the 70s and 80s that are still in our heads, that we remember. And most of those were because they were repeated for years in some cases. And he's saying we lost that. We've lost a lot of that. Now brand campaigns last days, weeks, maybe months at any one time. And we're too quick to pivot, was his point. And he said, sticking with a strategy is a return to fundamentals. And what I put in there was, that's lovely, but it is this gets to the muscle memory, I think, that is important in the brand itself. So there's an external part of that, which is a content external facing, stick with the story that you're going with, right? Yeah. But I think even more importantly is to build muscle memory in the organization so that the consistency that you create is internal as well. We are so quick to pivot based on, what are we resetting? We got to reset our brand. We got to pivot to this way. We got to get a new message for this channel. There's a new thing out. We got to get this new thing out. And it's always in this panic sort of reset mode instead of building in consistency over a brand that honestly we may have forgotten, right? I mean, change the logo, change the colors, change the thing, change this. It's like, relax a little bit and stick with what brought you here, because I've literally watched brands that are less than 10 years old. These are startups, or they're new companies less than a decade old, and they're already forgetting what it is that they sort of were when they first came into the marketplace, right? They're already trying to move into some new space that they feel like they need to occupy, when it's like, no, your story was fine. Stick with it.
Yeah. But that's always the way, isn't it? I mean, we're the first to get bored with our own messaging, aren't we, as marketers? And it 100%. Seems, And
now with the technology and the speed at which we move, sort of the whole move fast and break things, everybody sort of takes that too literally, I think, and says, because we can change the website, because we can change our logo, because we can open up Canva and put in a new look and feel, well, now let's do that. It's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right?
Right. And is that related to the second point that you pulled from that, which was the know your brand thing? Is it that we need to understand how deeply our brand is now resonating with our audience and how much penetration we've got? Because I think if we understand that, we might be quite surprised and think, well, everybody's fucking bored with this, but actually there's a big swathe of people who've never even heard it yet.
Yeah. And that's Pritchard's point with know your brand. And my lens that I put onto that was, I've talked a lot, and even on this show, I've talked a lot about the brand's stories, right? So in other words, the brand's worldview, right? Where, what do we, not just what we believe about ourselves, but what is increasingly important these days is, what does the brand believe about the world? And whether or not that's political or social or literally just thought leadership, what does the brand institutionally believe in the world? And getting that well understood among all the teams is I'm seeing as an increasingly important thing, right? How social do we want to be? How political do we want to be? How much, what is the right take on the future of insert your industry here? And so that knowing your brand's stories is so important. And it is as important as knowing what does your brand actually, stand for.
Right. And I mean, he's probably talking from a B2C perspective any more broadly, but I mean, obviously, if we're having this conversation, I assume you believe that this is just as relevant for B2B, right?
And maybe even more so. Yeah, maybe even more so, because it is most, B2C, because it tends to be more transactional, because it tends to be more, let's call it culturally relevant, because it's consumers, right? So it's more closely tied to pop culture and culture. You can see that writing on the wall, but B2B is fast, sort of the faster riser, I guess you would call it there, in terms of, knowing what is true in culture, politics, ever more, manufacturing and technology and all of the B2B things, because younger buyers are associating a brand's stance in the world as something really important. So it matters, right? It really matters what, that B2B CRM company that we're going to purchase from believes about the world. It really matters what that generator company, what their policy is on, economic, the situation and, tariffs and all that. So those things matter in business to business purchases now more than they ever have. And so having a stance on that is really important.
And I guess we could make the point there that it just seems to be like everything's political now, isn't it? And
yes, well, that's true.
About everything, which is
there's certainly that. And the answer is not having an opinion on this is a choice, right? And what I've been telling my clients anyway is to say, hey, listen, it's not that you have to have an opinion on Brexit or you have to have an opinion on politics, A issue, B issue, or C issue. You can decide that we're not going to have an opinion on that, but that's a decision too. And the worst thing you can do is to not make a decision, right? Is to basically let it run, and where the brand team, the marketing team, the demand gen team decides, we're going to newsjack something and put out a position on this that the institution doesn't believe, and that's where we get into trouble. So not having an opinion on it is great, but then make that an institutional decision, not necessarily the default.
Yeah. And I'm skipping around these 5 a little bit, so I should maybe have let you start from the top and work through.
No, it's all good. I like skipping around, yeah.
But so we just did know your brand, but the last point that you were talking about there was nurture creativity, which I think is a hot topic right now. And again, we can't have it without talking about AI, but what was your take on the nurture creativity point?
It is really what is. So what he's talking about, what Pritchard is talking about, is the idea of really nurturing human created creativity, right? In a world of AI and all technology and automation, it's sort of rediscover the idea of what creative really means, right? So in so many ways, we used to call it creative, right? Back in the day. And now it's just content, right? And so, but what the lens that I put on it was, okay, yes, that's great. That's super important to nurture that creativity over content and all of that. But increasingly what that nurturing creativity means is to co-create with your audiences, with your community, with your influencers, internal and external. And so you're co-creating or co-creativity with your audience and building those things together is an increasingly important thing. So in other words, it's not just broadcasting at people anymore. It's actually working within your audience, your customer, whatever your constituency, whatever that sort of metaphor is for you, working together to co-create things, to, interesting things, whether that's, media, content, social, whatever those things are, it's much more of a partnership these days than it used to be.
Yeah, and that to me sounds like that pulls at that same thread we were talking about just a moment ago, which is that you need to have the strength of your brand values and brand guidelines for that to work as well, because you're now less in control of the co-creation that's going on, but people need to understand the context of how they can express the brand in a way, right? And what's going to be appropriate and relevant, right?
Yeah, they all work together for sure. They're all, if you were to put this into a visual, they would all be sort of interlocking Olympic rings or something like that. A giant Venn diagram of what
that's marketing.
And as I say in the post, these are not sort of these fundamentals, whether you look at Pritchard's sort of view of it or my sort of lens over the top of them. In either regard, they are not sort of, even calling them fundamentals are, sort of implies a call back to the past, right? To say, we got to go back to our Mad Men days and sort of figure all this stuff out the way it's like, no, that's not the point. The point is that these are anchors, right? These are anchors that we should remember as a core piece of what marketing and communications really is, and use them as anchors and apply the modern world to it for sure. But these are anchors, not necessarily sort of, old rocking chairs or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a common thread that we've picked on over the years that we've been talking to each other on this podcast is the fact that the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater sometimes with these marketing fundamentals.
We're so
and these kids come
something dead, right? Branding is dead, advertising is dead,
Yeah. So that brings me back to the point I haven't pulled out yet, which is the fall in love with advertising. What's the relevance for us, particularly in B2B today, about why do we need to fall in love with advertising?
Well, it's funny because what we've done is that we've started, just to the point of talking about creativity, we've started to, what we did was we conflated creative with content and basically curation with programmatic. And so we basically turned advertising into a performance-based element of measuring only on the performance of the click, right?
Yeah.
And what that has done is that sort of really flattened the idea of emotional connection with an audience. And especially because programmatic is so targeted, because we, and it's sort of a spectrum, right? We work on targeting so hard that the message is built so specific for a specific kind of individual that it has to be about focusing in on someone who's in that mood right now, right? To build that performance for that person in that time, instead of the happy accident. And this is in a longer piece that I've written elsewhere, but I talk about the idea of, the old brand advertising of back in the day of creating something culturally relevant, emotional, et cetera. But then the distribution of that was on television or billboards or whatever, wasn't targeted at all. But the point is that, you reached your target audience, but you also reached people who weren't your target that became happy accidents, that became became your audience. Because you're, and we've gotten so wrapped around the axle of only targeting the people that we think are important, we lose the happy accident of reaching people that may be important that we don't know about yet. And because we don't have that strategy, we end up flattening the creative to something that is only focused on that one moment, and we lose that emotional connection to our brand. And so it's like, fall back in love with the idea of work that moves people rather than performs.
Yeah. And I mean, we know what's to blame for that, right? Which is digital marketing and the way that we now measure digital marketing, and every click and everything, we need to be attributing everything down to to such a finite detail that a thing needs to perform with a specific niche persona and all that stuff. And that's what you're saying, isn't it? If you broaden out a little bit, then people might happen upon this advertising that actually may be something they're interested in.
To me, it's about the targeting, right? We've gotten so good with technology and by the way, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but we've gotten so good at the surgical precision of targeting that we have lost the interest, much less the capability. We've lost the interest in building in the happy accident of the audience that we don't even know that might resonate with us, that isn't part of our target ICP, right? And, and so much of brand advertising back in the day was about finding those people who, like, I never even knew they might be interested in my particular brand, but this new brand advertising really struck a chord with them.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, in B2B and on the current zeitgeist and prevailing opinion on our marketing is that whether you believe the LinkedIn 95% rule or whatever it is in your category, the majority of people that you're trying to reach are not buying today, but they may buy tomorrow. And you're sowing those seeds, right? So yeah.
And the other thing that we forget is that yes, 90% of them aren't in market, and another 90% of them aren't in your ICP, right? And so can we target? Can we just like put some level of pressure or effort, whatever your favorite verb is there, on finding the people who might be willing to consider our brand or might be willing to become a new ICP for us that we just don't have the capacity to know about.
Yeah. Or maybe they'll refer us to somebody else.
Right.
Because I've written about leakage and wastage before, and that's actually... that could be good. The wastage
leakage
on your
wastage,
ads.
Exactly. Leakage and wastage can totally be when you're doing something surgically precise.
Yeah. Splendid, mate. All right. So if I'm looking for content which is surgically precise, where am I going to find that, mate?
You'll find it on our website, which is seventhbear.com. And of course, on my newsletter, which is seventhbearlens.substack.com.
Splendid. And that's a proper newsletter as well. There's some significant amount of content goes into that. It's really good.
It's a bitch to write. I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's like a freaking newspaper, mate.
I do enjoy it, but it is not, I will tell you, it is no small effort. Yeah.
No, it would take me all week. I don't think I could do anything else. So there's a lot of effort goes into that. How's the website coming along? Because I know you were talking about redoing it and put scaffolding up.
Yeah. Let's have another drink. Yeah,
I love it, man. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, where are they going to find you, mate?
They'll find me on LinkedIn primarily. Although if you want to, I'm getting a little more of my feet underneath me on Threads. If you want snarky politics, go to Threads. If you want only business, go to LinkedIn. Yeah.
All right, mate. And most important for me, will you be in the bar next week, mate?
I will definitely be in the bar next week. Yeah.
I look forward to it, man. I'll see you then. Cheers. Thank you, Robert. 5 splendid points from Marc Pritchard, and I really enjoyed Robert's take on all of those. I will, of course, include a link to Robert's full article on the Content Marketing Institute's blog in the show notes. So that's a wrap on our visit to the Rose and Rockstar. Thank you for putting a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track and jiving along with us. You can find all of Robert's links to me, the Beat newsletter, our blog, and all of our previous episodes on our website, rockstarcmo.com. Coming up this week, Jeff is back on Wednesday. I'm chatting with Simon Daniels for his What's Broken in GTM podcast. And as you heard, Robert will be back in the bar on Saturday. In the meantime, on the topic of advertising, I'll leave you with this quote from Howard Gossage. Nobody reads ads. People read what interests them. Sometimes it's an ad.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Henneke Watkins-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Henneke, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennekewatkins-porter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.